All right, let's talk a little bit about cannabis. I have a very interesting video from one of the Daily Wire guys, Matt Walsh, flipping out about cannabis and talking about how cigarettes are better, healthier, less bad, etc. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here. It's going to allow us to discuss a number of different aspects of the drug war and about cigarettes, tobacco, cannabis, and legalization. Just as a disclaimer, and I do this only because every time I talk about this issue, invariably 30-40% of the responses are guessing at what personal stake I have in this. I have no stake in this. I don't smoke cigarettes, nor do I consume cannabis in any form. I'm not doing any forms of tobacco, nor cannabis. I have no stake in this. I find the smell of both annoying, and I don't want any smoke near me or near my daughter. So I have no... Call me biased, but I have the same exact bias when it comes to tobacco and cannabis, which is I don't want the smoke anywhere near me. Okay, so let's jump into the clip. He's going to say a couple things that are fine, but then it gets completely off the rails.
Okay, let me note a few things here. First of all, the whole argument that weed is a plant, so it's okay to consume, is ridiculous. Opium is a plant. Lots of things are plants, but they're not supposed to be consumed.
Okay, so it is true that simply pointing out that something is a plant or is derived from a plant is not really an argument for or against its health or for or against its legality. To be clear, there's a difference between smoking cannabis, which is essentially just pulling pieces off of the plant, versus how you refine the, I don't even know, the jelly, the pus, I don't know what it is that comes out of the poppy into then opium. That there is a difference in terms of how they're refined, concentrated, but it's perfectly fair to say that just because something is or comes from a plant X, that's not a great argument one way or the other. So far, it's okay.
Because it grows naturally doesn't mean you're automatically supposed to eat it.
Fine.
Much less light it on fire and smoke it.
Sure.
So there are a lot of poisonous, organically grown plants out there that you should not put in your body or on your body.
Now, should starts to get a little bit prescriptive. There may be negative health effects to some of these decisions about putting a plant in your body, or it may be that there's an ethical judgment that is being passed, which is a little bit different. They're two different things, but let's continue.
So that alone does not, well, God made it. God made it, so therefore, automatically, you can set it on fire and inhale it, and it's a good idea?
Now, on that note, smoking anything is bad for your health. You put any kind of smoke in your lungs, right? You light up a cigarette, you light up a marijuana, you light up a banana leaf. It's not good for the lungs to inhale smoke. That being said, the completely unquestionable connection between cigarettes, which it's not just the nicotine, it's the tar, it's the other add-ons, right? We know how bad that is for your lungs. We don't yet know exactly how bad smoking cannabis is for your lungs. It's not good, but it is totally possible that smoking cigarettes is worse because of all the stuff that's in them.
What kind of a thought process is that? Second, related to that, it was claimed that cigarettes are so much worse than weed, but tobacco is also a plant. Alcohol, okay? Alcohol comes from, depending on what kind of alcohol you're talking about, but let's say whiskey, for example, there are the plants and grains that are used to make the alcohol. So
sure.
And besides, say whatever you want about, say, cigarettes. Two things cannot be denied. One, tobacco helped build this country. Okay, we would not have a country without tobacco.
Okay, that's a very big exaggeration. It is absolutely true that tobacco played a significant role in the early economy of the American colonies, Virginia and Maryland especially. But the idea that without tobacco, this country wouldn't exist is an exaggeration. And also, even if it were true that hundreds of years ago, tobacco helped launch the country, that doesn't tell us anything about what could or should be done today. So it's actually it's both untrue and a misdirection. It was a crop in early America. That's about it.
Without the tobacco plant, this country doesn't exist.
Untrue.
So it has been crucial, central to this country from its foundation. The same cannot be said for marijuana.
Okay.
Tobacco is as American as apple pie.
This is just nonsense now. This is irrelevant to what its health status or legal status should be.
It is. You don't have to like it, but it is. Second, I would much, much rather live in a society filled with people who are on nicotine over people who are stoned. Nicotine makes you more alert, more productive. Weed does not have that effect.
Okay. So I think that this is very, very silly. First and foremost, there are also, so where do you even start? Nicotine has stimulating effects. That's absolutely true. It can have a short-term effect that's sort of like caffeine. Caffeine is far safer. The long-term effects of tobacco are overwhelmingly negative. They include cancer, they include heart disease, they include respiratory problems. So if his argument is weed makes you just melt into the couch and it's bad for so-called productivity, but nicotine gets you to do work. First of all, stepping outside for 10 minutes every hour to smoke a cigarette is not exactly going to do wonders for your productivity. But very importantly, there are significantly safer alternatives, and cheaper, by the way, and less societally destructive alternatives to the stimulant effect of nicotine. The primary one, of course, is caffeine. Now, marijuana's effects, they vary. Certainly, some strains can induce relaxation and alter sensory perception. It's not usually associated with increased productivity, but if you are struggling to be productive at work because you're in pain or you have anxiety or whatever, now all of a sudden the cannabis actually may increase productivity. So this entire productivity framework is very silly.
Like back when everyone smoked cigarettes everywhere, you go back to like the 40s, everyone smoking cigarettes. Everywhere you go, just everything smells like cigarettes. And back then we were a highly productive country.
This is very stupid. This is extraordinarily stupid. Productivity is way higher now on a per worker hour basis than it was in the 40s, with less cigarette smoking. And in the 40s, there was rapid technological advancement and industrialization that we know was responsible for increased productivity. This idea that the cigarettes were the thing, very stupid, not based in fact.
We have never been more productive. This back when we were building skyscrapers and winning world wars and going to the moon and stuff. Now, I'm not saying all that happened because of cigarettes. I'm just saying that...
In fact, we don't know that any of it did.
Societally, the effects of cigarettes are actually pretty positive, and same is not true of weed. Okay, you like, does anyone really want to deny that? You take a city, have everyone smoke cigarettes, they're all dosing themselves with nicotine. Have another city, everyone's stoned. Which city do you think? Which one would you rather live in? Like which one?
Yeah. A lot of people would rather live in the stoned city because they'd argue it's probably more relaxed and there's less violence and so on and so forth. But again, you can't really, just comparing cities, you can't disaggregate the fact that a lot of people are drinking coffee when they're smoking the cigarettes. You're oversimplifying social and economic factors. You're oversimplifying the sorts of industries that are in those cities. As you can see, this starts to get very stupid. So this to me is Matt Walsh on a personal level doesn't like cannabis. And he is trying to make an argument that is reverse engineering what his moral and ethical standpoint is. When it comes to the health stuff, again, smoking is bad. Smoking anything is bad. Smoke is bad for you. Cannabis has many, many, many non-smokable methods of consumption, alternative consumption methods, we would call them. We know that cigarettes are addictive in a highly physical manner. Certainly, cannabis can be habit forming, but it lacks many of the additives and other elements that are what make cigarettes so addictive and so dangerous. We are increasingly seeing the medicinal uses of cannabis. There are no medicinal net positive uses of cigarettes. And of course, the public health impact of cigarettes we know is a disaster. We are starting to see more and more recreational cannabis experiments across the country. The early data is these are not destructive. These are actually neutral or in some cases positive things. So Matt Walsh, wrong about just about everything when it comes to cannabis. And just as a reminder, I have no horse in this race. I'm not consuming any of them, and I find the smoke annoying in either case. If I'm missing something here, let me know. Our sponsor, Aura Frames, makes amazing, vibrant digital picture frames, which are a lot different from the digital frames of years ago, where you're fumbling for memory cards and USB drives and sticks and cables. Instead, with Aura Frames, everything is done seamlessly over Wi-Fi. Before you give the frame to someone as a gift, you can load photos onto it without even opening the package. So when the recipient opens it, your photos are there. I've given both my parents these as gifts. We set my girlfriend's parents up with one. We put pictures of the baby on there. We're traveling and we photograph the baby and it pops up. They just love it. And now they and I can add more pictures to it, take pictures off that we don't want anymore. And one of the coolest parts is that the photo storage on the cloud is completely unlimited. After you set up your Aura frame, you'll see why they were named the #1 digital frame by the New York Times, Wired, and others. From now through Cyber Monday, Aura is having their best deal of the year. You'll get $40 off the best-selling Carver matte frame. Go to auraframes.com/Pacman. Use the code Pacman. The link is down below.